Ekabo, and welcome to another episode of Talking IFA with me, Babalawo Salako Awolola, your friendly neighborhood Babalawo, who just happens to have over 30 years of experience here in these IFA streets, coming to you with the American African cultural perspective on IFA. So if you want to learn about IFA, you've come to the right place. Ashe. I'm Babalawo Salako. I was initiated as a priest of Ifa and Obatala in Nigeria in 2006, and I've been practicing the Ifa Orisa religion for over 30 years now. My mission is simple: to help those who are new to the religion or lost in the religion. So if that's you, then buckle up and join me. This is Talking IFA. All right, welcome. So let's go ahead and get started here today. Today, our topic is, can you really practice Ifa in America? And what is meant by that is, can you practice the authentic version of Ifa here in the United States, for instance, where I'm at, in the United States? So I'm coming to you with a perspective of somebody from the United States or an American or North American perspective on Ifa. So first of all, let's say this. What is traditional Ifa? How is it practiced? Where is it practiced? Okay, so it is obviously practiced in Yoruba land. Yoruba land is located primarily in Nigeria, West Africa, but there are other countries in West Africa in which it is also practiced originally, but primarily in modern day Nigeria. So what was it there? So originally, today we call it Isheshe. I'm coming from an Isheshe perspective, but that was recently that they called it Isheshe, and I'm gonna tell you how that came about. But before that, we've had it was a traditional Yoruba religion, and it was practiced in a way there that was different in the sense of you had different villages and different towns and villages, and you may go to a particular village or town and they may primarily worship one Orisha. They may primarily worship Obatala. So everybody in that village worships Obatala. Or you may go to another one. Everybody may worship Ogun, etc. Oshun. But what tied to the religion all together were back to the cosmology. I've talked about it before, but I'll reiterate. So the cosmology or the universe, the Ifa universe, is as taught by the Owishe Baba Wande Abimbola, is divided into two halves. Okay, you have the right side, which we would say is the good side or the constructive side. The left side, which we would say, you might say, is the evil side or the destructive side, right? So on the right side of the good side, we have the Orisha, we have humans, we have the Egungun, the honored ancestors, we have Egbe, we have etc. We got animals, plants, etc. On the left side, we have the Ajogun, which are the negative entities, okay? Now, who governs that universe with Olodumare is Eshu. So Eshu is like the universal policeman. So no matter what Orisha, like if you go to a village back then and they only worshiped, say, Obatala primarily. But when they do offerings to Obatala, those offerings go through Eshu. Eshu carries all offerings, right, and delivers them. So therefore, regardless of whether you just worshipped Oshun or you just worshipped Obatala, etc., you still had to go through Eshu. So Eshu was there. So Eshu was kind of like a unifying entity or force in the religion. In addition, even if you only worshiped Oshun in that village or Obatala, then they still worship the Egungun or their honored ancestors, right? So that was also a unifying or all-encompassing aspect of the religion, regardless of where they were. And then we also had Ifa, and we say Ifa, and the Orisha is Orumula, and we could say Ifa Orumula. We say them synonymously, but Ifa is more than just Orumula. But Orumula is also called Ifa. So Ifa being the word, divination, and in Ifa, the Ifa literary corpus, it contains stories about humans, of everything that's happened to humans over thousands of years. Orisha, stories of all the Orisha, the Egungun, the Ajogun, they're all told about in stories in Ifa, in the Odu Ifa, the essay for the Odu Ifa. Okay, so those entities right there are kind of all-encompassing, unifying forces, right, for the religion. So then, of course, slavery came, right? And we were brought over here to the West, to Americas, North and South and Central America, for instance, also to Europe. But so when it came here, though, Yoruba weren't the only ones being enslaved, right? So you may had different ethnic groups as slaves brought into the same area. Each of them brought their own culture, their own religious or spiritual practices with them. So the way it evolved over here, of course, it could not be purely Ifa Orisa or Yoruba religious practice, right? So you would have kind of a mixture. And so, for instance, in Cuba, for instance, where they evolved Santeria, now Lukumi, there were people from the Congo, there were Yorubas, there were other people there that were brought in during slavery. So they had influence. Now, the strongest influence was the Yoruba. So the Orisha practice came through and survived. But there was the Congo and Palo and other things like that. Then they also were, depends on who were you enslaved by, right? So in places like Cuba, they were enslaved or colonized by the Spanish, who were Catholics. From Dahomey, the Vodun religion, which became Voodoo in Haiti, were also colonized by Catholics at that time, the French. So what they did was they ended up influencing the religion, how it was practiced. Basically, even if they were trying to hide under the Catholic saints, and even if they were pretending to worship the Catholic saints, a lot of those practices came over, right? So the religions were kind of mixed like that. So what do we have today? Can you practice authentic, what we call today Isheshe, Ifa religion in the United States? Okay. Well, let's look at that. So first of all, let me make sure I'm following along on my outline, right? So the first thing that you would need to be able to do that is you have to have access to credible information, right? So I know if you're here and you're new, because the goal here for me is to help those who are new, who are wanting to learn about the religion, or who may be new to the religion and just wanting to join it and getting involved, and those who may be orphaned. They join the religion, and for whatever reason, the Oluwa or the people they were working with, you know, that was lost to them in some way, but they still want to grow in the religion, right? So that's what this podcast is for. That's the target market. It's not here for those who are already in other ELAs or you already have Oluos, because you should go to them to learn about the religion. But for those who do not have Oluos, who are new, or they used to and they're out there, that's who this podcast is for, okay? So, therefore, one of the first main issues is access to credible information. Like I said, if you're already in an LA, then you're going to get your information from somebody you trust, and you're in that house or LA or under that Oluwa. But if you're out there on your own or you're new, then you're going to start Googling and searching online and trying to find stuff about the religion, and you're going to get all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to tell you right now, most of that stuff is trash. Most of it is not credible. You will be misled and misguided and mistook if you follow a lot of that stuff, right? Even a lot of the books, right? So there are credible books, and there's a lot of books that will mislead you. But if you're new, there's no way that you can discern that on your own, right? You're going to need assistance. So, what's the question? How can a beginner know what is credible information, right? Okay, so let's look at the differences of some comparisons here of the primary practices over here in the West. So, outside of Isheshe now, you had the Cuban practice, Lukumi. That's still the primary practice, I think, in my opinion, here in the United States. But Lukumi, and was Santeria, and maybe some still call themselves Santeria, some Lukumi. I'm not sure, but Cuban way. Then there's also in Brazil, Candomblé. Those are the two biggest in the West. There's also Shango Baptist in Trinidad. So I would say those three are the primary three that were practiced and is being practiced here in the West, especially the United States and Brazil and Cuba. Okay, but now there's a growing group of people who want to go back to as close as possible to the traditional way of practicing religion, and that is now called Isheshe. So why is it called Isheshe now and it wasn't, if you look 20 years ago? Is because when you started having people in this country that wanted to practice traditional, it was the traditional religion, and now you have, which I would term denominations of the religion, in Lukumi or in Candomblé or Shango Baptist. They're like denominations. They kept trying to say, what would they call it? They kept saying, well, just traditional African religion or traditional Yoruba religion. Well, the religion has been so attacked, and they try to destroy it in Nigeria through the Christian missionaries, that they've converted a lot of Yoruba, I would say the majority, to Christianity or Islam. And in doing so, they've made them demonize their own cultural religion. So if you keep saying traditional Yoruba religion, and you say that to some people who are from Nigeria that's Yoruba, you may get a lot of backlash for that. They get upset. Don't say it's Yoruba traditional religion, blah, blah, blah. So people were getting a lot of heat and that kind of thing from that. So they said, okay, well, let's come up with a term, and they, Isheshe evolved. So now they call it Isheshe. It's not that Isheshe is new, it's the traditional original form, but it just has a name so it can, distinguish it from Lukumi or Candomblé or Shango Baptist, etc. Okay, so that's the primary thing there that you will need to know. Because when you're out here and you meet people and they say they're in the practice or in the religion, they're going to normally be in the United States, for instance, they're going to either be Lukumi or Isheshe primarily. There are some people here that may do Candomblé, but they'll be a lot more difficult to run into. So they're either practicing Lukumi, Isheshe, or a hybrid combination of the two. So you kind of need to know when you want to get into something what you're getting into or what you're looking for. So that's one thing to know. Okay. Of course, over time, there's going to be differences in the different denominations, just like, for instance, in Christianity. For most people that don't know the history, Christianity really started at the Council of Nicaea around 275, I think, BC, with Emperor Constantine. So they kind of created that religion out of ancient Kemet or Egyptian religion, and they took some things and they created that religion, right? So they created Catholicism out of Rome, and Catholicism, since it was a government, it was involved with the government. The government is the one that founded it, and so it was tightly linked to the government, right? So they were ruling, they controlled everything. So eventually, you had a king in England, and I don't remember the king's name right now, but there was a king that wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he felt like the Catholic priests, and they were on him too much and trying to block him from doing what he wanted to do, how he wanted to live his life. So he got upset and decided to break away from the Catholic Church and start a new church, which he wanted to protest against the Catholic Church. So that original church was the Protest Church, which is now called Protestant. But Protestant was a protest church protesting against the Catholic Church. And then over time, but since it had that, energy of rebellion and protest, it split over the years. So now we have all these different denominations: Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist, right? And they started developing, they have things in common, right? They all believe in Jesus. They say Jesus and God. But, for instance, Seventh-day Adventists, they believe the Sabbath is on Saturday. Other denominations believe the Sabbath is on Sunday. Baptists believe in baptizing people in water. So a lot of the other ones don't believe in baptism like that. So they all kind of developed their own differences and unique ways of practicing their religion, but they all fall under the umbrella of Christianity, right? So they're different denominations. So with us, we have different groups who worship the Orisa, right? But they started doing some things differently. They may, some of them even changed the Orisa in different ways. Some Orisa from male to female, etc. But I'm not going to get into that in this podcast. But so we can look at it as, if you're looking and you're new coming to this religion, there are different practices and different denominations, so to speak. So you probably need to do your research and kind of see, well, what is that you want to do, because they're all beautiful. Even though I am a Sheshe, when I started out, I was in a house that was a hybrid of Lukumi and what we call a Sheshe now. So I was doing some practices too that were similar or that were Lukumi and others. So, and believe me, they're all beautiful. Lukumi, you go to Cuba or Lukumi is a beautiful practice. You go to the Bembes, it's beautiful, right? But again, you just have to kind of see what it is you want to do, right? So, so let's look at this. So if you want to practice Isheshe, and a lot of this that I'm going to talk about now applies to all of them. If you wanted to, a lot of these you'll have the same issues if you want to practice Lukumi, or if you want to practice Candomblé. You may even have additional challenges in the United States if you can't find a Candomblé priest to study under and learn, and you want to practice Candomblé, then you're going to have to connect with somebody in Brazil, for instance. So that's an additional challenge that you may have. So let's go there. What are some of the challenges? And these are a lot of the same challenges that I've gone through, and some I'm still going through. And if you new and you want to come to this religion, you're going to probably go through a lot of these also. So, number one, the cultural differences, right, between Yoruba and, for instance, African Americans, right? There are some major cultural differences, because one of the things that you'll learn about this religion is Yoruba culture is tightly entwined in this religion. It's tightly entwined. A lot of the practices in this religion are Yoruba cultural practices, even for Yorubas who don't practice the religion of their ancestors, and they may be Christians now or something. There's still a lot of cultural norms there. And some of these will affect you when you want to come and practice this religion in the United States, for instance. One of the things in terms of cultural differences is respect. See, one of the things in this religion that's very key and core is respect, right? So in Yoruba culture, respect is everything. Respect is so important and so entwined in Yoruba culture and in this religion that Yoruba language is totally designed with respect in mind. There are ways you say certain things. There'd be a certain word. If you say it to a peer of yours or somebody younger, you say it one way. But if it's an elder, like your parents or anybody else that's an elder, then you must put respect on it. Another thing they do in Yoruba culture is they do ballet, meaning you might prostrate yourself on the ground, or you touch the ground in front of elders, or even your parents. Every time you come to, if it's the first time you're greeting your parents or seeing them that day, you do ballet. You touch the ground out of respect. That's totally foreign to us anymore in the United States. I mean, if you get on a bus or a train and there's elders there, people and young people have zero respect for elders here. They may be on the train doing anything, saying anything. They may even cuss out an elder, right? It's been lost. I mean, even in the past, a lot of us would grow up African American saying, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, right? Most of us don't do that anymore. Most young people don't even say that anymore. They don't show that kind of respect. So that can be an issue for you, right? If you coming into an LA and they start telling you that you have to bow down to people and you're not used to doing that, and you got this American attitude of pride, like I'm not bowing down to anybody, right? That can happen. So another thing is family, right? family structure is everything there. Um, Everything's built around family. And if you look in this religion, um, the Egungun is family. Honored ancestors, family in this religion is honored. Some people would say worshiped. Some people say, no, that's not the proper term. Worship, they say you honor and you communicate and engage with your ancestors and they help you, right? So either way, it's ultimate respect. In traditional Yoruba homes, your family members were actually buried in your house under the floor in the house so you can have quick access to honoring your ancestors, right? It wasn't in graveyards and all of that. So and then over here we lead the world in divorce, and we have more single parents and all these things going on now where there's kind of a war of the sexes that's been invented and targeting us, black people. There was a lot of things going on that's contrary to how this religion is practiced. Everything around it is family. The core is family. Even so much so that all through the Odu, all through Ifa, okay, you'll find what is the Ire. Ire is a term in this tradition that means a lot of things. It's hard to translate it clearly, but Ire is like good things happening for you, blessings, all the good things happening for you, right? Ire. So when you say Ire, just like, I remember when I first started listening to reggae and I heard a lot of reggae artists from Jamaica, they would say Irie, man. And then at the time I was Irie, and they meant Irie, good things. But then I think about it, Irie is just probably another way of saying Ire, and over time they said Irie for Ire, right? But so in Ifa, in the Odu, you'll find that when they list the top 3 or the top 4 Ires for humans, meaning the highest blessings, the highest good things that you can have, they come in an order, and the order is for a reason. It's not saying that the one that's at number 1 is the most important, but it is very important for the others. So number 1, Ire, is owo, or money, right? And then number 2 is a good spouse, a good wife or husband. Number 3 are children, okay? And then 4 is all the other good things, or a long and healthy life, okay? So those are some of the top things, the most important, they say, to have in this religion. So money comes first because they believe that when you get a good spouse, for instance, in traditional African culture, the man would need to take care of his wife and family. So if the man was established first and had some money, it was going to put him in a better position to take care of his wife. And then once they had money and he could find a good wife, then they would have children, and then they could take care of the children. Then after that, to have a long and healthy life. Those are the top 4 Ires in this religious culture, right? So, like I said, family is everything here. So another thing that can become challenges that you would have to overcome possibly here is, one is supplies, right? There are some traditional plants and herbs. There are different things, like for instance, in Yoruba land, they use a kola nut that they call obi, the kola nut, right? And we use a special kola nut, 4 lobe. Now, You can use a 2-lobe obi, but you just need to use 2 of them, so I won't get into that. But cola nuts were traditional. Well, of course, when the slaves came and they couldn't bring the cola nuts with them, for instance, in Cuba, they had to substitute. So what they substituted was they used coconut, and so they break a coconut into 4 pieces so that you can divine with coconut versus obi or a 4-lobe obi. But now we get imports here, so we can import obi. Sometimes it's hard to get. Sometimes we run out. And but you know, obi is what's used now, and that's what was used there. But that can be a problem. It's getting the right herbs to make a marrow and other things can be difficult. We have to get that in, and if you're in a place now, you can order anything, so you can get things, but that can be challenges. Okay. Now let's go to some of another one would be proper training. So this is not really, like I've said before, a religion that you can just learn from a book and learn on your own and start practicing. You need to be working with someone, right? Somebody needs to be teaching you and training you, a credible person, if you want to grow in this practice, right? So proper training and finding that if you say you're orphaned and you're in a city or state where there's not a lot of, you don't know of a lot of Ifa Orisa people and you don't know who to turn to. Well, that's what this podcast is here for. And like I said, you could always reach out. I should have my contact information here. And I'm connected with a lot of people in the tradition. So never fear there. Now let's get to these last 2 areas that are some of the major ones. One is pushback from family and friends, right? So in Yoruba land, you have that now also, but in general, if you're there in the culture religion, normally it's your parents are in the religion and your grandparents or uncles. And so you have family members who are practicing religion and you're following your family tradition, right? But over here, we don't have that normally, right? Most of the time, we're the only ones in our family in a tradition like me. Now, when I say only ones, my wife and children are in the tradition now, but I'm saying my parents, my siblings, cousins, aunts and uncles, none of them. Most of them are Christians, right? And we run into that. And this religion is being viciously, vehemently attacked right now by Christians. Christians are attacking. If you go on YouTube, you could find videos where they're calling what we do demonology or devil worship or witchcraft. And one of the reasons, I'll veer off from this, get off topic a little, but one of the reasons is because so many people are leaving Christianity and so many people are joining this religion. Do you know that this religion, even though we do not proselytize, we don't recruit people, we just do what we do. But this religion is one of the fastest growing religions in the world right now. And I think they said we're like the 5th largest religion now in the world, 5th or 6th. In terms of number of people who are practicing around the world, they're joining from all over the world. So a lot of religions are getting afraid. And Muslims may also be attacking the religion. I just haven't seen that. I don't know. But I see a lot of Christians attacking the religion viciously. And I also see some who are coming at it a different way, where they're researching and interviewing people in the religion, gathering information so they can kind of see how they need to come at it to have a counterattack, so to speak. But anyway, one of the main things is your family too. So I have family members now that are Jehovah's Witness, and they've, attacked this religion and said, and a lot of times when it's family, it's not coming from a place of hate. They love you, they're concerned, but they're, and I'm gonna get into this in a minute, on the mind conditioning. They're brainwashed and conditioned by what they've taught in this country. Our concept of God, our concept of religion was taught to us by Christians in this country. So it's warped, I would say, right? So, for instance, I have family members who are Jehovah's Witnesses now. Jehovah's Witnesses, they're viciously about proselytizing and trying to convert everybody to the religion, and if they believe if the world's going to end any day, and if you don't convert, then you're going to hell or whatever, right? So when it's a family member of yours who's in that religion and they believe that, then what they believe is, if I don't save this person, my loved family member, they're going to go to hell. And like in my case, because my whole family, in terms of my immediate whole family, my wife and children, practice this religion, then they believe that I'm condemning my family to go to hell, and we're all going to go to hell, and it's their mission to save us, right? These are the kind of things there that you may have to deal with also when you try to come to this religion from your own family. Now, the final thing I want to cover today in terms of challenges is the mind control, mind conditioning that we've gone through in this country in terms of culture and religion. So our whole outlook, we don't understand that, first of all, language controls and dictates how you perceive the world. And that's something that a lot of people in America don't know, because most of us only speak one language, and so, we see the world a certain way, and we just think that's how the world is seen, right? But if you were to learn 2 or 3 other languages, then you would see differently. You understand that, and over here, us as African Americans, our original language has been taken away from us, and we just left with English. English is a very limited language. There's a lot of concepts and ideas that can't be easily expressed or described using English. Okay, so that controls and affects how we look at things, one of the ways. But one of the main ones is religion, right? So it's been so powerful for us deep down at the subconscious level that there's a God, right? This almighty God, and God's son, Jesus, right? And your way for so-called salvation is to give your life and verbalize that you worship that God, that you honor them and only them, and you're told they're a jealous God and they don't want you dealing with anybody else. They attack anything else as demonism and devil worship or witchcraft. And so you come from that mindset. They also condition you to think that there's so-called one God. Now, if you study history, you'll find out that concept first came around by a pharaoh in Egypt or Kemet called Akhenaten. And Akhenaten, I guess, just got tired of having to worship multiple deities. So Akhenaten said, no, we're only going to worship one, and started the concept of worshiping one. But after Akhenaten was dethroned or died, the next pharaohs went back to the original way of worshiping there. But Akhenaten had started that. So that is so deeply ingrained that even people that you will see that's in this religion, the first thing they'll say is, well, we worship one God, Olodumare, and that one God all the Orisha are just aspects of that God. We bend over backwards trying to convince people who are Christians or Muslims or atheists that our religion is worthy of respect. Why? It's because we also are like them and worship one God. We just call him a different name. But we don't stop to think that we're conditioned to do that. Okay? So what if the Orisha are not part of one God? We have Olodumare as separate from the Orisha, and the Orisha were created and they stand on their own. And we go to the Orisha because in our religion, our high deity that you would call God, if you want, Olodumare, doesn't deal with us directly. We don't pray to Olodumare. We don't give offerings to Olodumare. We don't go to Olodumare to answer our prayers. Olodumare doesn't even get involved in our day-to-day activities. Olodumare, of course, is responsible for us to be here and have life. But I'm saying Olodumare doesn't deal with us individually daily. That was appointed to the Orisha to do, okay, and our ancestors. So we go to them for help and assistance in our lives, right? So, and that's not demonology or devil worshiping or all of that. The Orisha are not demons. The Orisha are not evil, right? Now, see, the other thing that you'll see that's a different concept is a lot of the other religions, like Christianity, for instance, they acknowledge at a certain level that there are other things, but they primarily try to ignore them. They just lump everything under the devil, and this is the devil does everything. Well, in our concept of religion, and plus another thing, Baba Wande had pointed out is that when you look at Europeans and white people, their concept of the world is if anything they don't like or they think is bad, their idea is to destroy it, to kill it, to do that kind of thing. But he said that the African way is to be in harmony with nature. The African way is to say, okay, this negative thing is here and that negative thing is there. How can I exist along with that? How can I still survive? How can I live with that? So what do I need to do, adjustments I need to make to navigate the world amongst all the things here? Because in our cosmology, we look at Aye, or the world that we're living on Earth, is full of chaos. And there's always, there's a constant war between the Ajogun and the Orisha. The negative forces, the Ajogun, the good forces, the Orisha, are constantly battling, right? So when we come here, first of all, we choose to come here. Now, I know some of my family that's Jehovah's Witness, they look at it, coming here as a curse. So their way of looking at life is, we just need to pray, stay, and wait till we go to heaven or go somewhere because, and like for instance, Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't even celebrate birthdays because they look at, why should you celebrate birthday? Being here on earth is a curse. And we just waiting, till we go to the here and now, basically wait until you die. And that's totally antithetical to our concept, because we look at that we all chose to come here. And we came here knowing that we were going to go through trials and tribulations. But the concept that we have is when we were in a room, which some would equate to like Christians heaven, it's not exactly the same, but they equate it to that, a room, we are children, right? And then when we choose our Ori and choose to come here, we're coming here to grow and become adults. So we're children. We come here, and in order to grow, we have to go through trials and tribulations. And in order to survive, we have to be strong, right? Stronger survive. Steel sharpens steel. So we choose to come, and we know we're going to go through trials and tribulations, but we know we have the Orisha. If we enlist the Orisha, we enlist Ifa as the GPS of life. As Baba Kola says, Ifa Orisa is the GPS of life to help guide us on our path and how we can navigate these trials and tribulations and be successful here. That's the way we look at it. Like Baba Kola, for instance, he tells a story of a mentor that he used to have in Nigeria. And he said when he would go see him, when he was leaving, instead of saying things like, have safe travels, I wish you safety and good health, he would say something to the effect of, may your travels be rough, or may your travels be tough. And he was saying at first, when he was saying that to him, he was thinking, well, why would he wish bad on me? You hear people say that, why are you wishing bad on me? Why you want me to? But really what it was, is he was saying, for you to excel in life and to be good, you have to go through the test of fire. You have to go through trials and tribulations to make you strong so that you can overcome all obstacles, so that you can be successful, right? So he was saying, if your life's too easy and you're sitting on the couch and you become a couch potato, you're just going to sit there and eat and get fat and unhealthy and you know what I mean? But if you're out there working aggressively and trying to accomplish things, you're going to fail. You're going to go through trials and tribulations, but when you come out of the other end, you're going to be wiser, you're going to be smarter, you're going to be stronger, right? So we don't look at coming here to IA and being here as a curse, right? In our religion, our culture, we look at it as each of us chose to come here. And so it's just a matter of us navigating through the trials and tribulations and trying to stay on our path, because when we choose our Ori, an Ori is choosing a path for us, or the best path. And normally, if you stay on that path, then you're going to navigate through things and be successful in life. And in order to do that, because once we go through the birth canal, we're born, we lose our memory. Before we come, we go to the tree of forgetfulness, we lose our memory. So we have to come to Ifa Orisa for divination to help us every now and then to say, okay, am I on the right path? Am I going in the right direction? Am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right job? Am I in a relationship with the right person? Do I have the right friends, etc.? Right? We go to Ifa to help us to get back on track and let us know, are you on the right track? Okay, good, keep going in that direction. Or no, you need to do these things and change this and that. That's one of the primary purposes of Ifa divination, is to help us navigate and to be on our right path in life so that we can go through and be successful, okay? So if you come from a point of view of somebody whose concept is life is, being here on earth is just a curse or hell, or, and you just need to get out of it as soon as you can, then that's a different concept from us that you have to get even through your own mind. So if you come into this religion and you're new and you were a Christian, for instance, you grew up a Christian, these are some of the challenges that you will have in terms of your mindset, right? You have to change your mindset to really understand here what, for instance, Baba Kola says, Iwa lesson. We talk about Iwa Puele. One of our goals is good and gentle character, Iwa Puele. Iwa lesson, we could translate as character is what we worship. So people ask, what do we worship? Do we worship the Orisha? Do we worship the ancestors? What we worship is good character. We worship good character. And in trying to achieve good character, we enlist the assistance of everyone that we can get to help us. So our honored ancestors can help us. So we go to them and say, what do I need to give you in order to get you to help me? The Orisha can help us. So we go to the Orisha and ask for help. What can I give you? And we have to give them something in exchange for them helping us. But what we're getting them to help us with is on our path to develop good character and to be, the person we need to be, because just like in terms of similarities, just like they say in some of those religions, they have a judgment day. Once we transition and our time comes, then you go through a judgment day, right? In our religion, we also go through a judgment day, okay? We have to go meet with Agbe Mama, and we are judged, right? But in our religion, we also believe in reincarnation, and there's a lot of things that can happen. We may be said, well, okay, say for instance, you come through this life, and let's look at it from the terms of character levels. That's how I like to look at it. This is just my opinion. It's how I look at it. So let's just say our levels are 0 to 10. And say you come through this life and your character level's a 3.2, right? You come through this life and you grow, and once you go meet Agbe Mama, maybe you've risen to a level 5. You say, okay, you made progress in this life, level 5. But the goal is to become an honored ancestor. To become an honored ancestor, let's say you have to reach a level 10, right? Or at least say level 8 or 9, but let's just say, hypothetically, a level 10. So he says, okay, well, you let me reach 5, good work. You need to go back through Aye again, through another life, and grow some more. You may have multiple lives until you get to a point where you reach the level 10 to where you do not have to come back and you're now honored ancestor. Now there's other things that can happen. I'm not saying it's just reincarnation. If you were here and you lived a real bad life and you harmed a lot of people, or you killed people, or you were just terrible person, right? There's also possibility that you could be extinguished, okay? So when you go to Agbe Mama, they say, okay, well, you're just incorrigible. We've sent you back and you're just not getting any better. So then at that point, Obatala can extinguish you, extinguish your soul, and now you don't exist anymore. So if you think about that, that's a whole nother level than dying. Dying only occurs when we're humans, but we have our human body, which is mind, body, and spirit. So we have our spirit, but we're a physical body. So once we come to Aye and we're born here in a physical body, eventually that body has to die. Our spirit doesn't die, but we die. So Iku is death, we die, right? But when we go back to a room, we may come back and be born again, right? But the worst thing is to be extinguished. So if you're so bad that Obatala says, this person, I need to extinguish now you're gone from existence forever. There's no coming back. There's no reincarnation. There's no becoming an honored ancestor. Because in our tradition, we believe we as people are spirits going through a human form temporarily. Our spirits can live on forever, eternal life, but it also can be extinguished, right? So that is, and the other thing is just anybody in general, religions attacking us for our religion, and even practicing our religion. We're kind of in this country at the mercy of Christians, right? Because the people who run the government and all that, they're either Christians or atheists, right? For the most part, there's a few Muslims. And when they turn their viciousness towards us, it can affect us. They can pass laws. Now, there was laws that were passed years ago to try to protect our religion, but I think there's too many of us who take that for granted. We think, we kind of think we're impervious to anything happening to us. We say, oh no, they passed that law in Florida, we could practice our religion. But just a year or so ago, I remember there was a group of priests, I think of 5 or 7 in Texas, that got arrested. Why? Because the police came and called on them for practicing the religion. They may have been doing their ball, and they thought they'd say, oh, you was doing something illegal, and they took them to jail. I think they were in jail for a week. You have jobs and all that, until they finally realized, well, no, you can't do that. What they're doing is legal, and then they released them. But my point being, do you want, we're under attack, so we have to also be cognizant of that. We have to be careful of that. Okay, so in conclusion, the answer to the question of can an American or African American really practice Ifa? Of course you can. We have all the resources here now. If you get with the right people, you'll be fine, but just don't go out there and be a renegade and try to create your own thing and do things your own way. Get with somebody who's credible, and then you can grow and learn in this beautiful, ancient African tradition of Ifa. And I've been in this, like I said, over 30 years, and there's nothing anybody can do or say that would make me ever stop practicing this religion, period. I will be in this religion till the day I die. So I hope that I've been of help and I've been able to give you some good information. And you have a blessed day, a prosperous day. Ireo Odabo. Ashe.